Hey guys, I'm back and we're starting a new book today. We're going to be reading Who Was Milton Hershey? Now, if you're trying to figure out who he is, think about his last name and you might be able to tell. So who was Milton Hershey? An American candy store in 1900 looked very different than it does today. Candy was a special treat sold mostly exclusively in candy stores. Customers didn't touch the merchandise, and it certainly wasn't available in wrappers and bars. It was not displayed on open racks, but held in glass jars behind a counter. Shop clerks put candy into bags one small piece at a time. The many varieties of candies included butterscotch, taffy, caramel, molasses candy, taffy, and hard candy made from boiled sugar in dozens of flavors and colors. Even though there was plenty to choose from, Milton Hershey knew the one thing that was missing: chocolate. He was a successful caramel maker from Pennsylvania, and although very few Americans had ever even tried it, he had tasted creamy milk chocolate in Europe. He thought it was much better than any other candy, including his own caramels. Hershey put all his energy and time into bringing milk chocolate to America. After many years of experimenting, he succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. The Hershey chocolate bar changed the way Americans bought and enjoyed candy. It was affordable, portable, and individually wrapped. The bar was sold in drugstores and grocery stores, and best of all, made chocolate available to everyone. Milton Hershey's success helped him realize other dreams too, creating towns, improving manufacturing methods, helping children, and leaving a rich chocolate legacy millions still enjoy today. Chapter 1, Time to Get to Work. If you love chocolate, then you should celebrate every September 13th. On that day in 1857, Milton Snavely Hershey was born in a house in Hookersville, Pennsylvania. It was a town in the lovely Lebanon Valley. Milton would later become world famous for making chocolate, but he spent almost all of his life not far from the house in which he was born. Milton's parents were Henry and Fanny Hershey. Henry was a dreamer. He loved reading and trying new things. Henry was always looking for the next big idea, even if he didn't know what it was. By 1860, Henry's farm had failed. Henry moved his small family to Tittaville, Pennsylvania. Oil had been discovered there, and he wanted to make his fortune by pumping oil. Henry also tried selling supplies to prospectors pouring into the area. Neither idea worked. Within a year and a half, Fanny's family had to pay to bring the Hershey family back home. They tried farming again. Milton loved it, feeding the chickens and picking berries. To help out, he sometimes sold the berries to the neighbors. His family didn't have much money, so every bit helped. Milton was always careful with whatever money he got. In 1963, a Civil War battle was fought at nearby Gettysburg. Milton took his coins and buried them in a can in the garden for safekeeping. Then later, he couldn't find the can. Along with his new baby sister, Serena, Milton and his parents moved again later in 1963. Fanny's family helped the Hersheys buy a farm called 9 Points. In this new place, Milton was sent to yet another new school. He was not a good student and didn't like school that much. He had already been in several by the time he was 9. At 9 Points, Henry Hershey tried farming again and failed again. Though Fanny sold eggs and Milton helped out, life was hard for the Hersheys. In 1867, Serena, Milton's sister, became very ill. She was just shy of her 5th birthday when she died of scarlet fever. That was the final straw for Fanny. Though she didn't directly blame Henry, she turned her back on him. They could not get a divorce. Her religion didn't allow it. They did split up, however, which was very unusual in those days. Milton stayed with his mother. In 1870, Milton's school days ended. He was 12, but he could only read and write as well as a fourth grader. Fanny had no problem with that. She said that it was time for Milton to get a real job. Chapter 2, The Young Candy Maker. Milton's first job did not work out. He was working for a printer. It was difficult and boring. One day, he took matters into his own hands. He let his straw hat drop into one of the printer machines while it was running. The machine stopped working, and a few minutes later, so did Milton. Roy's ice cream garden? Fanny suggested that a job at an ice cream parlor would be more fun. So Milton started working at Roy's ice cream parlor and garden in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It was much more fun than printing. Lancaster was a big city too, with many more people and things to see. Milton had learned from his mother how to work hard, so he put in long hours mixing, stirring, wrapping, and selling Roy's products, such as ice cream, juices, and candy. From his father, however, Milton got a love for trying new things. At Roy's, he saw how the owner mixed different kinds of ingredients together to try new candies. Milton wanted to make his own candies, so he started experimenting with his own ideas. Roy's was located in a busy part of the city. College students came in to buy ice cream and sweets. Businessmen came by during lunch. Milton often kept an eye on the horses of customers while they shopped. One customer liked Milton so much that he always tossed the boy a dime in thanks. After Milton had worked at Roy's for 4 years, Fanny encouraged him to move onward and upward. She hoped that her son would be more than just a shop assistant. In 1976, Milton took his first big step into business. Although only 19, Milton opened his own candy shop in Philadelphia, about 75 miles away. The big city was booming. It was 1876. America was celebrating its 100th birthday, and thousands of people were joining the party. Hershey borrowed money from his Aunt Mattie. Milton's shop on Spring Garden Street was a hit from the start. He really knew how to bring people in. He ran a pipe up from the basement where he cooked the candy to the ground floor. People smelled the boiling sugar and came to satisfy their sweet tooth. Hershey's shop sold candy that he made himself, along with fruit and ice cream. He didn't sell chocolate, however. At that time, chocolate was a luxury item. It was very expensive to make. It also melted very quickly and couldn't be sold in warm weather. In fact, many people in America had never tasted chocolate. For the moment, the name Hershey meant taffy and sugar candy. Sales were good at first. Milton could make great candy, but he was not a great businessman. The store did not make a profit. Perhaps more schooling might have helped Milton, but it was too late for that. He worked so hard that early in 1981 he got sick. He had to spend a month in bed getting better. In early 1882, Milton Hershey had to close his candy shop. Wagons from Lancaster arrived in Philadelphia. Milton's cousins were on board. They filled the wagons with gear and kettles from the shop. Hershey turned his back on Philadelphia and headed home. To his mother's surprise, Milton's next move was to follow his father. Henry had written to say that he was in Colorado mining for gold and that Milton should join him. It was a move that would change all of their lives. Milton arrived in Colorado as the gold was running out. Once again, Henry had missed his dream. But Milton stayed and tried to make the best of it. He got a job at a candy company. The store sold a sweet treat called caramel. Milton had seen caramel before, but never like this. It was soft and creamy and didn't get stale on the shelf. He learned that the secret was to mix fresh milk, not the wax that other caramel makers used. Milton memorized everything about making the perfect caramel. Then he decided to open his own shop again. By 1883, he had traveled back across the country to New York, the biggest city in the United States. At first, he worked at a fancy shop called Hoyler's. In his free time, he explored the city looking for a place to open his own shop. In this period, New York City's candy shops sold to their own neighborhoods. If you wanted candy, you went to your local store. Candy was not sold in nearly as many places as it is today. So Milton needed a neighborhood without a candy store. He decided that 6th Avenue near 42nd Street was the right place. Today, surrounded by skyscrapers, it's one of the busiest corners in the city. In 1884, it was not nearly so busy. There was a park across the street and some buildings, but Milton's shop did pretty well for a while. People going to a nearby theater often stopped in. A new hotel brought in more customers. Fanny and Aunt Mattie once again came to help, mostly with wrapping the treats. Milton cooked up in the basement. When people came in his store, Milton helped them choose candy. In those days, candy store clerks helped with every purchase. There were no counters filled with pre-wrapped candies. Instead, candy was kept in glass cases and glass jars behind the counter. Often customers could buy several pieces of candy just for a penny. They would point to their favorite and the clerk would count them out and carefully wrap them in paper. Unfortunately, Milton had to close the store in 1886. His father, Henry, was partially to blame. The year before, Henry had arrived in New York City and wanted his son to try making cough drops. But the special machines needed to form the drops were very expensive, and the cough drop adventure ended up costing Milton his business. The store was ruined, and Milton headed home to Pennsylvania. But Milton still had something valuable. He still knew how to make amazing caramels. He was not ready to give up the candy business. We're going to stop there for today, and I will be back tomorrow.